The All Star selections have been fairly controversial, especially the All Star reserves. But I'm tired of seeing certain players getting attacked for making the All Star team, especially when they have clearly done enough to be an All Star. And WNBA coaches are getting insulted for some of the All Star selections, when for the most part they make perfect sense. According to Yahoo Sports, the coaches had a window of June 30th and July 2nd to vote, so I'm not going to consider anything that's happened after that. Any stats used in this video will be any games before July 2nd. I want to give a shout out to Basketball Reference for making this process a lot easier. The notion that Courtney Williams is somehow not deserving of being an All-Star is completely ridiculous. And no, Kayla McBride was not robbed in favor for Courtney either. If we're talking about an all-time ranking, then sure, Kayla is probably better than Courtney. But if we're talking about this season, which is the only thing the All-Star selections are based off of, Courtney has clearly been the better player. Courtney Williams and Kayla were averaging a similar amount of points per game around the time of the voting, but Courtney was blowing her away in assists and was averaging more rebounds and steals per game. Even if you ignore the stats, Courtney Williams is without a doubt more valuable to the team. The Lynx without Kayla McBride is like a car without windshield wipers. It's not ideal, but you can still make it work. But the Lynx without Courtney Williams is like taking the tires off. The car isn't going anywhere. Kayla missed 4 games at the beginning of the season, and the Lynx went undefeated, because pretty much the entire team can shoot. But there's no one that can do what Courtney Williams can do on the Lynx. There's a reason the Lynx became a title contender overnight as soon as Courtney signed with them. They finally have a player that facilitates the offense at a high level. Natisha Heidemann is a good backup, but she's not someone that can be the starting point guard on a championship team. Kayla McBride was not better than Sony Citron either. Sony is playing better defense than her. She sees tougher coverages than McBride, and her performance from game to game is a lot more consistent. McBride is extremely streaky. There's games where she can't miss, but there's also way too many games where she completely disappears on offense. This is something the stats won't show. What's crazy to me is that Kiki and Citron are getting attacked for the same things Kayla Thornton is being praised for. Kayla Thornton doesn't have the craziest stats either, but she's an important contributor to the Valkyries, who have overachieved this season. Citron overall is putting up better numbers than her, but somehow it's outrageous that she's an all-star. Kiki Irifan's numbers aren't that much different from Kayla's either. In terms of winning, the Valkyries and Mystics have consistently been one game between each other, so the better team argument isn't relevant in this scenario. I've also seen a lot of talk about how Jonquel Jones was snubbed. I strongly disagree. She's an all-WNBA caliber player, when healthy. But that's exactly the problem. She has struggled with injuries all season. The WNBA All Star Selection isn't a preseason award. I could at least see an argument if Jonquel Jones was putting up MVP numbers during her 9-game stretch. But her numbers outside of rebounding and three-point percentage were down across the board. She only played 9 games and wasn't going to return until after the All-Star break, so of course the coaches aren't going to put her in the game. And Azura Stevens wasn't snubbed either. At the time of the All-Star voting for the coaching, the LA Sparks had only won 1 home game. They very recently just got their 2nd home game victory against the Connecticut Sun, who is on pace to be one of the worst teams in history. There was no way coaches would award a team like the Sparks with multiple All-Stars. Nor should they. They are severely underachieving. Sure, Stevens is averaging better numbers than Kiki Irifan, but Kiki Irifan is actually helping the Mystics win basketball games. Brittney Jones I have mixed feelings about. Realistically, she should have made it, but at the same time she made it last year, over Ezi Magbagor when she shouldn't have. I wouldn't have had an issue if Alana Smith made the All-Star team. I think she has a stronger case than McBride, because the Lynx would definitely have a harder time replacing Alana Smith's defense than they would with McBride's scoring. But what happened to Smith isn't new. Defense-heavy players never make the All-Star game without an elite offensive game, like Gabby Williams. Last but not least, Brittney Sykes. This is the one player where I think she was a legitimate snub, but I don't agree with the notion that Citron should have been the one taken out to include Sykes. Brittney Sykes is valuable to the team because she's a great veteran leader, but this isn't like the Las Vegas Aces or Minnesota Lynx, where there's a clear, definitive number 1 player. The Mystics are more set up like last year's South Carolina team, where the best player changes from game to game. Sony and Brittney are both very good defenders. Brittney is averaging more points, but Citron is more efficient. and we've seen her hit many clutch shots late in games. Taking out Citron for Sykes makes no sense. There was 2 players realistically she could have replaced, one of them being Rhyne Howard, who I think is being completely disrespected by the fans. Yes, she's not efficient, she probably takes some shots she shouldn't, but she's been an incredible wing defender who has been locking up some of the best guards in the league. Rhyne Howard will miss the All-Star game due to injury, so the obvious thing to do would be to replace Sykes with her, since the role for their teams is very similar. The other player Sykes could have replaced is Kiki Irifin. Kiki has had an incredible rookie season. She's been the 3rd best rookie in a very stacked class, but Sykes has been a better player overall. So why exactly did Kiki make it over her? It's because the coaches listen to the fan base, something the league gets accused of not doing enough of. Kiki Irifin finished in the top 11 for fan voting, even with her slump. She received significantly more votes than Stevens, Sykes, Brittney Jones, and Alana Smith. When there's so many players to choose from for the last spot, fanfare is going to be a factor. Because at the end of the day, the All-Star game is for the fans. I don't blame the coaches for this one bit. And even though Kiki Irifin isn't playing like an All-Star right now, it won't be very long before she will start dominating again. And when that happens, there's going to be a lot of people switching up. But that's it for this video. This will probably be a controversial video, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, thanks for watching.